Starting today, this is our place. Strangers can scram. Whoa, hold on a minute, what's going on with both of you? After my mother's funeral had just ended, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law began to insult me non-stop. My husband intervened, but the two of them showed no signs of slowing down. You're being tricked. Maybe you've been brainwashed or something. Ha, that's right, it's all because your mom spoiled you. She's the one who raised you to be this way. Your mom's to blame. When my sister-in-law and mother-in-law badmouthed my mother, my anger exploded. I can tolerate them speaking ill of me, but I absolutely will not tolerate them speaking ill of my deceased mother. My name is Kathy, 35 years old. I met my husband, David, who is a year older than me, at work, and we got married 5 years ago. I used to live with my mother and husband. Reflecting back, a lot has happened in these past 5 years. 5 years ago, I was working at the real estate company my father owned. I've always been interested in the flow of people and money, so I studied economics in college and applied that knowledge to my work. However, there were those who saw my success as a result of my own ability and those who thought it was due to my parents' influence. For example, when I heard people talking about me, they often referred to me as the boss's daughter rather than by my name. Moreover, my husband was the top salesperson in the same company. It seems that he was popular with many women, and I received nasty glances from various people. Of course, I don't think that all of my work success is due to my own efforts. I believe it's all thanks to the cooperation of those around me, but I couldn't help but feel frustrated at being labeled as the boss's daughter. While I was living these frustrating days, my father passed away. My brother took over as president, and the harsh stares towards me became even more severe. You must have screwed up. That's why your brother's now the president. Now we'll have to call you the president's sister, right? Normally, I might just feel frustrated, but at that time, I had just lost my real father. Those words were hard to take for me, who was mentally worn out. After my father's funeral, a single thought crossed my mind: what do I really want to do? Even if I tried to keep going in this situation, something inspirational was missing. As I thought about it, I found myself saying, I want to be an investor. In front of my husband, David, rather than rejecting my outrageous proposal, he supported me. When I told my mom that I wanted to quit my job and become an investor, she laughed and said, you didn't have to worry about your father. You should have done what you loved from the start. Despite my father's recent death, this might seem outrageous. Before talking to my mother, I was always thinking about the negatives. But looking at my mother's smile, I began to feel that the opinions of others didn't matter. While dealing with the funeral, settling the estate, moving, and other busy tasks, I started as an investor. Of course, not everything went smoothly from the beginning, but my calm and cheerful husband and mother encouraged me every step of the way. Thanks to both of them, the investments I started with my savings and my father's inheritance went well. After a few years, my income had significantly increased compared to when I was working at the company. On the one hand, I was living a fulfilling life, but on the other hand, there were two people who were a big concern: my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. My sister-in-law is 3 years older than my husband, 4 years older than me, and she's still unmarried. From the time that David and I decided to get married, I got the feeling she wasn't particularly pleased. Even my mother-in-law seemed to think that I was just a rich little daddy's girl, despite the fact that I was working at the same level as any other employee. Even though my father was the CEO, every time I went to my in-laws, she'd make snide comments when my husband or father-in-law weren't around. Being a pampered princess, I bet you can't do housework worth a dime. It's a woman's job to do the chores. Please don't make David do it. Mother-in-law, my mother taught me well, and I can handle things on my own. But since I also work, David and I help each other out. It was his idea. Actually, despite my explanation, my mother-in-law refused to accept it. My sister-in-law often echoed her sentiments, remarking, it's absurd that a woman who makes her husband do housework can get married. My relationship with them worsened after my father-in-law passed away. It must be nice, huh? Living off David's money and slacking off at home. I have to put up with so much because my husband's gone. Why is it that you get to live so freely, Kathy? Mother-in-law, as I've mentioned before, I make a living as an investor. I'm not slacking off at all. In fact, I have less free time than when I had a regular job. If you're really making a living, at least give me an allowance. You can't even have kids. You're really a good-for-nothing wife. After my father-in-law's death, my mother-in-law became increasingly fixated on money. She resented that I, whom she viewed as a shut-in, wasn't financially stressed despite working from home as an investor. But I had no intention of giving her money. Every visit to my in-laws revealed more luxury items, making it clear where any money I gave would go. I loved David, who trusted people and didn't warrant mistrust himself, so I chose not to tell him about my in-laws' behavior. However, I did confide in my own mother once. Why can't I have children? The looming uncertainty as I approached 35 and my mother-in-law's constant badgering about when we'd have a baby weighed on me. Her harsh words haunted me, leading to my outburst. But my mother, puzzled, simply said, "Well, I had you when I was 35, so it's okay. God will give us the right timing, I'm sure." Her words lightened my heart. Since then, even when my mother-in-law mentioned children, I reassured myself, children are a gift. After 5 tumultuous years, things were finally calming down. Then, suddenly, my mother passed away from a subarachnoid hemorrhage. Losing my guiding light plunged me into deep grief. David, who had lived with me for several years, also took it hard but remained kind and supportive. The funeral came before we could fully process her absence. Many attended to honor my mother, who had been an executive at the company my brother now led after my father passed away. Among the attendees were my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, who seemed to have timed their visit when David was not present. "There's no need for condolences, right?" they said, bypassing any condolences as they signed the register. I was simply dumbfounded by the insensitivity of my in-laws. Yet, when David returned, they instantly changed their demeanor. "You may be going through a tough time, but Kathy's shock is probably greater. You should support her," they said, pretending to consider my feelings. Later, when I was feeling utterly exhausted from the past few days, the doorbell rang. My considerate husband answered to find my mother-in-law and sister-in-law at the door. David, believing they had come to cheer me up, invited them in without hesitation. As they entered the living room, they glanced at me with smug expressions before uttering words beyond my expectations. "From today, this is our home. Outsiders should leave." "Mom," David exclaimed in surprise, but she continued. "Until now, we've put up with you because your mom was here, but now only unemployed Kathy is left. If you stay with such a woman, you'll be ruined. We'll live with you, so you should divorce Kathy." "What are you saying, Mom, at a time like this? And what do you mean by unemployed? I've told you many times that Kathy is an investor." "When you say investor, it sounds like a proper job, but isn't she just playing around with stocks? How can such a woman be a wife? You can find a much better one." "Hold on, what do you mean by bad-mouthing Kathy? What do you two intend to say? Kathy earns her own money, don't call it playing around." "You've been brainwashed. You've spent too much time with Kathy's mother." "That's right, Kathy's like this because her mom spoiled her." I understand why David wants to defend Kathy. After all, it's her mom's fault for raising her like this. When my sister-in-law and mother-in-law insulted my mom, my anger, which had been dormant, exploded. I could tolerate them bad-mouthing me, but I would never tolerate them bad-mouthing my mother. "Stop speaking ill of my deceased mother," I shouted, glaring at them with all my fury. Yet, they only grinned, showing no signs of fear. Okay, I get it. You don't like us talking about your mom, huh? Now that the mom who always sided with you and let you be a shut-in is gone, it must be hard for you to hear the truth." I looked down at my trembling, clenched fist, taking a deep breath to suppress my anger. Just as I was about to retort, David spoke up first. "Enough is enough. Mom, don't speak ill of Kathy or my mother-in-law. Kathy is not a shut-in, she's a bona fide investor. My mother-in-law and I have been cheering for Kathy's efforts all along. If Kathy was just playing around, neither my mother-in-law nor I would have supported it." Even my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, along with myself, were surprised by David's usually calm voice. My mother-in-law, unable to grasp the situation, hastily made excuses. "Don't be so angry. Still, Kathy's lifestyle has been possible because of your earnings, right? Didn't you let her live a privileged life in this high-rise condo?" "Poor David, if you live with us, we'll do all the housework. Just give us a small allowance, that's all we need. The rest is..." "Don't you know, Mom," David interrupted, his voice flustered, "this apartment is Kathy's." "What?" My mother-in-law's eyes widened in disbelief. "This apartment is Kathy's, didn't you buy it?" "When did I ever say that? This apartment is a legacy from my father-in-law, and Kathy inherited it. The title is in Kathy's name. Plus, we split the living expenses evenly. I don't know what you think, but Kathy earns more than I do." "What?" Both my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were shocked by David's confession. They couldn't imagine I earned more than David. My mother-in-law lost her momentum, appearing deflated. My sister-in-law, however, spoke up. That can't be. Investors make that much? More than someone working for a company just by buying and selling stocks? I don't know about other investors, maybe Kathy has a knack for it, but facts are facts. How dare you belittle my wife? This is our home, both of you, get out now. At David's words, my sister-in-law began to panic. Wait a minute, we sold our house thinking we could live here from today. What? My husband and I both exclaimed in surprise. You sold your house? Why all of a sudden? You could have at least consulted with us. Well, we thought we could live here. Besides, we didn't have money. I quit my job thinking you would support me. So, if you don't let us stay, we'll be in trouble. Hey, Mom, say something. My sister-in-law looked at David with pleading eyes and shook her mother, who was still in a daze. The shock seemed too great for her to respond. Desperate, my sister-in-law turned to me. Kathy, I'm sorry, I apologize. Please persuade David for me. We can't survive like this. You sold your house, which means you have a considerable amount of money, right? I asked coldly. At that, my sister-in-law snapped. Don't get smart, don't talk back just because your investments went well, don't get carried away. Enough is enough. David's raised voice echoed louder than her outburst. He directed a sharp gaze at his sister, who fell silent. Forget about the house. I won't even ask for my share. Just get out of here right now. With that, my husband practically forced his mother and sister out and locked the door. For a while, we heard the doorbell and pounding on the door, but eventually, it became quiet. According to relatives, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law rented a cheap apartment and started living together. Their house, situated in a remote area, couldn't fetch a high price, and the land was cheap too. My sister-in-law couldn't find a decent job, and their money quickly ran out. Despite this, they tried relying on us several times, but we turned them away. They sold all their branded goods and are now barely making ends meet with part-time jobs. Meanwhile, I've been able to live freely as an investor without anyone making nasty comments. Next year, we're planning to add one more member to our family, just as my mother had said. I was blessed at just the right time and felt grateful to her once again.